It's not rock hard abs. I'm a man of flesh and bone. I do have buns of steel, but my abs are just washboard.
Hello everyone, welcome to Happily Ever Reality. My name is Brittany and I like to watch reality shows, specifically Sister Wives. I did not forget about this channel. I haven't posted much in the last month. I was taking a bit of a break, mostly because my eyes were hurting. You guys, I actually do a job that involves me looking at a computer screen quite a bit. And then I was making these videos and just using my phone like people do. I was doom scrolling and I got to a point where I was like, my eyes actually hurt. I want to take a little bit of a step back from doing stuff that involves working on a computer if I don't have to do it. So that is what I was doing, just taking a bit of a break. But there was no way I was going to let another season of Sister Wives start. Well, it's not a new season. The end of this season start again and not come back. I love the community here, so I was looking forward to this and also looking forward to seeing what you guys think about it restarting. So let's go ahead and get started talking about the second half of season 19. This is episode, what is it? Episode 21 of season 19? Yeah, episode 21. It is titled The Land of Milk and Honey. Let's go ahead and jump into it. The first thing I want to talk about and sort of get out of the way is talking about Kody and Robyn. In this episode, we see Aurora follow through with getting baptized. This was really a big part of Kody and Robyn's storyline in this episode. I don't have a lot to say about it, but I do want to point out that Robyn and Aurora both seem genuinely happy. They don't always smile when they're on this show, and I was able to grab screenshots of both of them smiling. So this just seemed to be a moment where there was real happiness for the two of them. One thing that was pointed out was that this is something Aurora has done on her own. She isn't following Kody and Robyn's faith. This is her own choosing. I think that is really good for her. I hope Brianna is doing the same thing. I hope they're out there finding their own way. I could not imagine being cooped up in a house with Robyn and Kody during the last few years when you were isolated due to COVID, but then you also were hearing all of these negative things about the other wives in the family and your siblings. I think it's good that these girls are going out there and doing their own thing. Good for them. And Robyn seems really supportive. So, I don't know. I just think this was a time we were able to see them happy. After the baptism, Kody, Robyn, and their crew go out for a celebratory dinner. And as they're talking, Kody brings up how Aurora feels about this day. And then he brings up how they might feel on their wedding days. And he's talking to really Brianna and Aurora. They're all at the table together, as well as the other kids. And there's a little bit of chit chat about what their wedding may be like. And then this leads to them discussing the idea of soulmates. And all I could think is that, when are they going to let this go? How long are we going to talk about soulmates? I feel like this has just been dragged on for seasons and seasons. We get it. Robyn and Kody are happy. They're in love. They feel like they're soulmates, but how many seasons do they have to discuss it? And now they have the kids discussing it. I feel like at some point we just need to move on from this. But they aren't letting it go and they continue to talk about it. This leads to them discussing how saying that they were soulmates wasn't acceptable when Kody was married to the other women, because that wouldn't be fair, right? Kody couldn't say he had a soulmate if he had 4 wives. He would have to say he had soulmates, which to me is something he could have done, right? He could have said, I believe these 4 women were meant to be my wives, and I feel that sort of connection with all of them. But the idea of a soulmate, it being one other person, wasn't acceptable. So it wasn't something he said. Robyn did say it during the first season. She said Kody was her soulmate, but she said she then realized that was not acceptable. She shouldn't be saying that. And they kind of had to hide it. And now they don't have to anymore. I just would like to move on from the word soulmates. I'm ready to let this go. But I don't think they're going to. You guys can let me know down in the comments what you think about all of this. Why do they continue to bring this up? This should have been such a small thing. But let's go ahead and move on over to Janelle. When it comes to Janelle, the show actually starts us out in Shreveport, Louisiana with Janelle, Christine, David, and Truly. They are continuing to move her to North Carolina. So it's right where we left off in the last episode. We find out that Janelle is going to be living in Maddie's house. They've made a room for her there. We also know at this point they have put in an offer on the property and it has been accepted. But everything's not final. So this is one of those situations where we know ultimately what happens because of social media. We know about the farm and all of that. But at this point in the show, they're just getting started. They've just had their offer accepted. There is a point where David and Christine are in a truck together and they start talking about Janelle and her future. And Christine says she hopes there's a time where Janelle really does find a partner and has a good relationship. She brings up that Janelle has been independent for a long time. And this leads to a confession where they talk about their independence. Christine says that she would always sit around and wait for Kody, but that wasn't how Janelle was. And I'm going to put in a clip here of Janelle talking about when she realized that she needed to stop waiting.
And I just kind of this stroke of inspiration where I'm like, wow, if I sit around and wait for Kody to show up, it's never going to happen. I'm going to sit home and be miserable, and I would never have lived any kind of a life.
It's sort of interesting if you think about it. Christine was the first to leave because she was the one that was still holding on to this idea that Kody would be there. And then when she realized he was not going to do that for her and he wasn't going to be there for the kids, she got upset enough to leave. Meri and Janelle seemed to be a bit more resigned to the fact that Kody couldn't be there or wouldn't be there, and sort of lived these independent lives and got used to it. So they weren't as upset, or at least they weren't sort of dwelling on it, right? They weren't waiting or thinking about it. They had just came to a point where they understood that was their lives. Kody wasn't going to be there and they were just staying. It was Christine getting upset when she saw Kody not showing up for the kids the way he should have, and upset over COVID and leaving, that seemed to sort of prompt Janelle and Meri to take a look at their own relationships. At least that's my perspective on it. But it is interesting if you think about it, because Christine is so open about it. She admits that she was still waiting on Kody. Let's refocus on them getting to North Carolina. They do eventually arrive there. Janelle talks about how she's ready to move on. The only thing that's connecting her to Flagstaff is Savannah, Gabriel, and Coyote Pass. We know she is ready to move on from that as well. They get there to Maddie's house. They're all spending time together. One of David's friends shows up and they're just having a great time. And it made me think, what would this be like if it was Kody? But it's sort of impossible to envision Kody there because we know even if Janelle had convinced him that they should buy this property, he would have never been allowed to have went there because Robyn would have never let him travel for that long. So this just wouldn't have happened. It's really amazing to see where they are now compared to where they were when they were all together as one family during COVID. It's during this part of the show where they do a little bit of a throwback to the time that Kody claimed that Janelle didn't see him as a husband, that she only saw him as a piece of meat. I thought it was funny. I like that they put that in there. Janelle didn't see him as a husband because he didn't show up like a husband should. He wouldn't stop by her house during COVID. She was living independently. She was a married single woman. That is what was going on. So of course, she didn't see him as a husband. But I also do not believe she thought as highly of him and his physique as he thinks of himself. Eventually, everyone there in North Carolina heads to this property. Everyone is seeing it for the first time except for Maddie. I can tell you as a viewer, I was very surprised by the fact that the land was completely uncleared except for where they were driving. Of course, we didn't see it all, but that was how it was mentioned and how they described it. It looks like such an overwhelming project. I have no farming knowledge, but I know if it's all trees, you've got to get rid of some of those. That seems like a huge undertaking. It seems very costly, very overwhelming. Janelle says that she knows they're going to be working hard, really hard these first 5 years. Still, if you're not someone who has experience with that kind of stuff, I don't know. I don't know how people get started in farming. I don't know how you jump into that career if you've never done it before. But it looks overwhelming, and we know because of social media they're having some difficulties. However, at this time in the show, they're all really excited and everyone is celebrating this new purchase. Okay, I want to move over to Christine. I really don't have a lot to say about her because she didn't really have a storyline in this episode. I mean, she was going to North Carolina with David and Truly and Janelle, but that was more focused on Janelle. But there was one part of this I want to talk about. There's a point on this drive to North Carolina where David and Christine are talking about how you shouldn't keep score in relationships. You know, David is familiar with polygamy. His sister was a polygamist, and he has a story about a time where his sister got into an argument with her sister wife about who had a better stereo. Yes, they had a fight over a stereo. This is something that Christine can relate to because she admits that she kept score and she always felt like Robyn got more time and had better things than her. I'm going to put a clip in here so that you guys can actually listen to what Christine said.
I lived that life. I felt like Robyn had a better couch. I felt like she had better dishes and better decorations and so many things.
So Christine admits that she kept score and she thought Robyn got more from Kody. And let's get real, she did. Kody has a confessional where he gives some excuse about how you shouldn't be keeping score. But Robyn's the one I want to focus on. This is what Robyn has to say about it.
If you're sitting there constantly using that scoreboard against each other, what are you, enemies?
First of all, Robyn is smiling on the screen right now. I just happened to add a freeze frame and she actually looks happy in this moment. And it's sort of weird because it's at a time where you're talking about something that led to the downfall of their family, and that is the idea of keeping score, right? Seeing who's being treated better, who's being treated worse. Robyn says that this shouldn't be happening, but of course she says that. She was always the one getting more money, getting more time, getting more attention. Of course she didn't want to point out the discrepancy because then she would have to give some of that up. That's typically how it works. Unless someone has really good morals or they really don't care about what they're getting, they won't point out that they're receiving more because then you have to give away some of what you have. Robyn liked the attention, the time she was getting with Kody. She wasn't going to point out that it wasn't fair. At least that's my take. So when she's bringing this up and sort of laughing about it, I'm like, of course to you this isn't serious because you never felt like you were neglected. The next person I want to talk about is Meri. When we finally see her, she is in Parowan with Jen, and we get a little bit of a surprise, or at least it was a surprise to me. I wasn't expecting to hear about my sister wife's closet. We find out that Meri is receiving emails about an order that had been placed on the My Sister Wife's Closet website. And basically this person placed an order and hadn't received the item. They would either like to receive it or get a refund. So Meri is getting emails and then she's sending them on to Robyn. So Robyn has this moment on the show where she's doing a confessional and she's talking about My Sister Wife's Closet, explaining that she started it 10 years ago and they sell jewelry, blah, blah, blah. Then she says that she has put it on pause. It's had to have been on pause for a while. I started this channel 3 years ago. I remember going to the My Sister Wife's Closet website and it had a statement there about how it'll be back soon. So it's been on pause for a while. How are people still able to make purchases? It cannot be that difficult to stop someone from buying something. She should be able to completely turn off the function that allows people to purchase. But if nothing else, just take all the inventory down. Remove all those parts of the webpage. Why can't she do that? I don't understand why this is even an issue at this point. I was just really surprised to have any of this brought up in this episode. I thought this stuff would have been so far in the past. And I'm surprised she is saying that people can sneak things into the cart and make purchases. Just stop the ability to do that. Take the items down. Anyway, Jen and Meri are talking about this situation, and of course that leads them to discussing Meri's relationship with Robyn. It's clear that social media and people's opinions have been getting to Meri a little bit because she brings up the fact that people are questioning if Robyn's relationship was ever real. Was there ever really a friendship there? And it's definitely stuff I've said before. I've read in the comments that you guys leave. I see it on Meri's social media. People are pointing out that Robyn didn't act like a good friend. I mean, one of the big things was always, if Robyn and Meri are so close, why didn't they spend time together during COVID? My theory was that Meri should have been living, even if just temporarily, in Robyn's home. There was no reason that Meri couldn't go there and stay sometimes, just so that she wasn't always alone. But that never was brought up. Meri living there was never ever brought up. Because, let's get real, Robyn and Meri were not as close as they tried to act like they were in previous seasons. And Meri is now admitting that. When Jen and Meri are discussing all of this, Jen questions if Meri would still like to have some sort of relationship with Robyn. And Meri says, yeah, possibly, but she knows if they were working on that, she would be the only one putting in the work. During a confessional, Robyn ends up discussing her friendship with Meri, and she talks about a time after Meri moved to Parowan that she reached out to Meri about them getting together. I'm going to put the clip in here so that you guys can see it.
Soon after Meri moved, I reached out to her and I said, the next time you're in town, let's hang out. Let's go do something. And she very directly said, I don't know how to be friends with my ex-husband's wife.
Imagine being married to a man that has another wife and you want to be her friend, and years pass and you spend less and less time together until you reach a point where you're really not spending any time together at all. Then you divorce that man and that person reaches out. Robyn is reaching out after the marriage to Kody was ruined. I would have absolutely said no as well. Good for Meri. Good for her being honest about it. I'm glad Robyn had to hear it. Anyway, the show goes forward and Meri admits that she would like to get to a place with Robyn where they can actually interact without it being awkward. I don't think that's possible because now I do think the seeds have been planted in Meri's mind. She's questioning if that friendship was ever real. I don't think she could spend time with Robyn and not try to address that. And I don't think Robyn's going to handle that well. I don't think Kody's going to let it happen. So I would be really surprised if there's a time where they're back together and there's a real friendship. I just don't see it happening. I think there's too much stuff from the past. There is one more thing I want to talk about, and that is Kody and how he likes his wives to look. All of the wives agree on the fact that Kody likes them to have their makeup and hair done. He wants them to look good. Christine talks about the camping trip that was actually on the show where Janelle and Christine, where they had been doing all of the cooking. They were doing breakfast and Robyn is sitting there doing her makeup. So they're doing all this work and Robyn does her makeup and then she does the girl's hair. And then Kody praised Robyn for how she looked that day while Christine and Janelle had been making breakfast for the kids. This is something that bothered Christine, where Janelle said she really didn't care. I think Janelle was just better at dismissing that. I think, I said it earlier, she was kind of married and single at the same time, right? Like she was doing her own thing where Christine was really still hanging on Kody's every word. So this was something that bothered her. Christine uses this as an example of a time that Kody was keeping score. He was always accusing her of comparing relationships and how she was a bad sister wife for doing that. But realistically, Kody was comparing all the time as well. So it wasn't just her. Kody was doing that. He was comparing the wives, and then that made her feel insecure. I think as viewers, we realized Kody was always comparing them and then picking his favorite. So I'm not really surprised by any of that, but it was something that was brought up in this episode. And that is it, you guys. Let me know down in the comments what you thought. Did I leave any big stuff out? If you haven't already, click like and subscribe. One more thing I want to mention. I was really happy that it wasn't all focused on Coyote Pass. There was a part of me that thought we're going to jump right into that, and that's going to be what the storyline really is for all of them. But it seems like They're not going to do that. And I appreciate that. I just think that's going to be drawn out for so long. They're going to need other storylines or it's going to get really boring. But that is it, you guys. Let me know down in the comments what you thought, and I hope you'll come back to Happily Ever Reality.